Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Work From Home Cafe. Yes, I am your host today, and you will not be seeing me get dirty in the kitchen. We have a special episode here today, and I have a special guest I'm going to introduce to you in a moment. I want to give you a little background on what we're doing today. So basically, I produced a movie. I'm part of a team that produced a movie. I didn't do it alone. And we made a movie that has a signature element in it of rainbow cookies. Italian Americans make rainbow cookies, and this is a signature feature in the film. So we thought that while we're promoting this movie called Team Marco, which is available everywhere you can stream video on demand, we are showing you how to make rainbow cookies. And I brought in a friend of mine, a friend and a colleague, who is an expert at making her family's rainbow cookie recipe. Anna Gass is a cookbook author and a chef, and she is my friend, and we have worked together on a book I'll introduce you to in a moment. But I want to bring her in here today, and she's going to be showing us how to make rainbow cookies, and then we're going to talk about Team Marco, and we're going to talk about what rainbow cookies mean to us. So welcome to CreativeLIVE, Anna Gass.
Hey there. Hey, Andrew. I'm so excited to be here. I love talking all things cookies, all things Italian. So yeah, let's get started with this.
So rainbow cookies. So it's something that obviously we both grew up eating, watching our grandparents make. Our parents, got involved in baking in the kitchen, and we all learn these things, right? But they've become sort of like a cultural flashpoint for Italian Americans, and it's become sort of a signature item. And I think sometimes people fear that rainbow cookies are really hard to make because they seem to be really complicated. So can you dispel us of that myth a little bit?
Okay, well, kind of. So yes, I absolutely consider the iconic Italian American dessert for a couple reasons. Obviously, there's a red, white, and green cake. So you have your Italian flag presented to you when you're eating it. And I think the other reason is because if you live anywhere with an Italian American bakery, these are in that shiny glass case, right? Like you're not, I mean, any Italian bakery worth their salt is going to have a rainbow cookie. And actually, this is a cookie I think that the Donas always make everything, but they love their bakeries. They love going to their bakeries to get their little box of cookies, with the little, with the red and white string.
Yeah.
And, the pignolis, the biscotti, the Florentines, and then these rainbow cookies were something that on a Sunday morning, your grandma or grandpa might show up at your house with. And, my grandmother would keep the string because she'd use it for something else, the little string that comes on the box. And then, of course, they'd serve these with espresso, very much like in the movie, which, for me, just really tug at my heartstrings because, yeah, like that's how Italians translate their love and translate their culture is through their food. So bringing a child to an Italian American bakery where everyone behind the counter is still speaking Italian and, grandma and grandpa are talking to them in Italian, that's what this cookie is all about. Now, for me, it has a special relevance because I went to NYU, and that's in the West Village, and there's Italian bakeries down there. Again, with the Italians that came from Italy still behind the counter. So I was going with my husband, my then boyfriend at the time, and we'd go there at night and have coffee and have these cookies. It was like our date. And my husband loved the rainbow cookies, and I had never made them, always bought them. But then my mother, who was falling in love with my husband as I was getting her hair done at the hairdressers, and the magazine, an old tattered magazine, had a recipe. And she called me up and she's like, "You gonna make Phil the cookies? We got the cookies." And I was like, oh my God. So I took that recipe, I kind of tweaked it, and now it is a family staple. Every year I have to hide a box of them for my husband to make 2 batches, one for Phil, one for the rest of the family, because they go like this. They're moist, they're simple, and they just scream Italian, and I just love them.
That's amazing. Now, I was doing a little bit of research on Italian rainbow cookies, and one of the things that came up in my research was that the Jewish American community also likes to make these cookies at Hanukkah, which starts tonight, and except they make them blue and white. So I thought that was very special as well because we're doing this show on the eve of Hanukkah. So we share so much with Jewish people, especially in New York, and I think that the fact that we share this cookie and the love for it too is pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we can definitely say is that food crosses borders, right? We all make the same version of a dish. I learned that, in the last few years, really cooking a lot of different ethnic cuisines and learning just how similar we all really break bread.
Well, one of the themes of the film, right, is this intergenerational relationship between the grandfather and the grandson. So Marco has to learn sort of the ways of his grandfather a little bit, and eventually realizes that he has a lot to learn from the older generation. You sort of went through a similar process in a project that we worked on together. I want you to explain that a little bit because I think there's so much relevance in terms of why we sort of embrace the things from the past and why it's so important. And that's why this cookie recipe kind of reflects that, but also the journey that you took to get to that understanding of other cultures and their, crossover with the things we appreciate.
Yes, so I have a cookbook. It's called Heirloom Kitchen, and I'll just show it real quick, some product placement. And I went around the country cooking with immigrant grandmothers of all cultures to learn those recipes that they had in their head and their hearts, but they never wrote down. And Andrew is the amazing photographer. And I'll just show it one more time, just to show this phenomenal shot that Andrew took of my mother's hands cutting tagliatelle, which is an Italian pasta. And these women gave me these recipes that they had never written down, but they brought from the old country. And I think it's why Team Marco spoke to me, because I've always been so tied to my culture through the older generation. And I love that push and pull between Marco and Nono, because it just shows that, Marco was learning from Nono, Nono was learning from Marco. That funny scene where he's teaching him how to use Google, the funny voice in the room. And I love that. I love that there was that bond created through, okay, I'm going to teach you a little bit about me, and you're going to learn a little bit about where I come from and essentially where you come from, right? Because Marco's Italian. And by spending time with his grandfather and playing bocce, he learned about being Italian. And I think that's what I learned in the kitchen with my mother. So many parallels. We're kindred spirits, what can I say? And I've told you this, but my family really loved this movie because it really speaks to how important it is to remember where we came from, because it essentially teaches us where we're going.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the relevance of that kind of bond that we all share with our elders, and being able to exemplify and celebrate that, especially now at a time when we've been a little bit fearful for our elders, where things have been a little bit unsettled in the world. So we kind of grab onto that and hold it a little tighter. So I think that this is a nice way to sort of remember, and also embrace the idea that food is a connector. It's a cultural connector. It's a familial connector, and it's something that we all can appreciate and learn from. So speaking of learning, why don't we kind of get started on this recipe? We could still chat. I have some other questions I want to ask you, but I would love for you to sort of direct us and talk us through the process of making rainbow cookies.
Absolutely. So really quick, I did a couple things ahead of time. So basically, the main part of the rainbow cookies is creating a batter. This batter, and when you make it, it's not going to be a lot. It's going to look like a little bit. It only has 1 cup of flour, this recipe, but it's because you're going to be creating 3 thin cakes to make the rainbow cookies. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera so y'all can see what I'm doing.
So as you know, that when I'm cooking, I do a similar thing where I throw the camera from my face down to the tabletop. This is Anna's first time doing it with us, but we worked it out a little bit ahead of time so we can watch her work. So go right ahead and talk us through a little bit.
All right. So if you're very interested, which I hope you are, you can head over to my Instagram at Anna F. Gass, Gass, and the whole process is there. But just for the interest of time, I just want to show you, you're going to make a batter. The main thing in Italian cookies, these Italian cookies, is this. It's almond paste. This is the magic. So almond paste, get it at your local grocery store. It comes in an 8-ounce tube, and you are going to see that it's hard. So you're just going to spend a little time, and I actually have my kids do it. You're going to break it up into a whole bunch of little pieces. Get it in a bowl. You're going to add 3 eggs, a cup of flour, 3/4 cup of sugar, and a little bit of salt, and then this almond extract. Because when you eat rainbow cookies, you want to taste that almond. It's going to hit you with the chocolate and the apricot all together, but it's the almond paste that really ties it together and creates that moist cake. Then the 3 batters are made by separating them out. I actually weigh the batter to make sure all 3 are even. You want to be preciso, which in Italian means precise. I'll be like, no, throwing in the Italian. So you have to be preciso. You have your 3 batters, and you're going to make a red batter, and look, I just get these at the grocery store. These little red dyes, green dye. If you want like a super duper red, you can buy the fancy dyes online, but I got everything at the grocery store. So I have my red cake down on the cutting board. Now, the other quintessential important ingredient is apricot jam. Apricot jam is actually in between the 3 layers. It helps it stick, but it's also another layer of flavor that these cookies have. So I'm just going to lay down a little bit of apricot jam, and can you see me well, Andrew?
I could see you perfectly. I think that's terrific.
All right, we're spreading this jam.
So you made the 3 cakes. How long did they take to cool when you made them?
So the cakes cook real quick because, as you can see, you're going to use an 8x8. It's a very small pan. It's going to make a very thin batter. You're actually going to have to spread it to the sides. It's like paper thin. It puffs up a little bit. Make sure you have your parchment down on there. And then I always have a little bit of insurance, a whole bunch of insurance, because you don't want that cake to stick. And then you're going to let it cool after 10 minutes, real quick in the oven. Let it cool completely, and then it should pop right out. You pull off the parchment and let it cool. Now we're adding our apricot jam made from
I'm hoping you have this written down so we can share it later.
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So you're putting down the apricot jam. Is there a measurement on that, or are you just kind of eyeballing it?
I just eyeball it. The recipe on my website, I think, does have, I don't know if I wrote it out, but I mean, you just want to do a thin layer. Basically, this is your glue, right? This is what's going to stick the cakes together. So I have my apricot jam down, and it's just all the way to the edge. So we're going to do red, white, and green, just like the flag Italiana, right? So here we go. We got our white. Now look, it should just pop right out. Ooh, yes, I got lucky today. I'm going to peel off the parchment.
Perfect.
Now, as you can see, the cake's got little holes in it from that apricot, from that almond paste. That's okay. That's okay.
I just made a cake with almond paste. It was a walnut. Instead of almond, it was a walnut almond. And it was a really delicious cake that I made for the David Tanis column. And it was very popular. Anything with almond paste is just becomes super popular.
It's not the easiest ingredient to work with. As you know, it's very hard and dense. It's almost like clay. You don't want to just dump it into the bowl. You really want to break it up into little tiny pieces or else it does not mix up. I mean, if you're in a bakery, obviously, with an industrial mixer, they probably can. But at home, that's how you kind of make it work. Now I got my white down. I'm going to do the same thing with my jam.
So 1 jar of jam will go a long way for this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So did you hide Phil's cookies already, or?
Well, yeah, because we're gonna do the swap. So I had to already slap his hand a couple times. That's what Italian women do when their husbands start eating things they're not supposed to ahead of time. You slap the hand away.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty cross-cultural.
Yeah, probably. Get out of here. This isn't for you. This is for company.
So one of the things we talked about when it came to Team Marco was your impression of Nono's accent, right? because
Yeah.
you and I both grew up around people who spoke broken English, essentially, with the Italian accent, and I was impressed by what you said about Nono's accent, because Anthony Patelis is the actor who plays Nono, is actually Greek, and you felt, as someone actually who speaks the language and is around it more than I am at this point, thought it was actually pretty accurate.
He did a great job. He did a great job. I mean, look, I grew up here. Now we're doing the green. I'm pulling off that parchment. I'm gonna lay it right on top. All right.
Beautiful.
And look at that.
It's looking amazing.
This is perfection. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do this, but when I'm doing this for my family, and you'll see, this is just all about success when you're in the kitchen, right? I actually put this back on top. I'll get a can of tomato sauce, a big can of tomato sauce, and I'll press it for an hour. And what that does, again, because I'm all about the insurance, is that just really melts those 3 layers together.
Wow.
Because when you're cutting it, you don't want them, falling apart on you. But again, not a necessary step. There's definitely times I haven't done it. Not going to do it today, because we're not just going to stare at, the cakes with a can on them for an hour. But yes, back to Nono's accent. I think he did a phenomenal job. Greeks and Italians were very, very similar people. We share a waterway. We're not that far from each other. And I do actually have many Greek friends, and I've spent time with Greek women for my book. The cultures are close to identical. So yes, I think he nailed it. I think Anna Maria nailed it, who is the daughter. They did a great job showing that father-daughter relationship. He just wants her to be happy. He just wants her to be married. And I think that Greeks and Italians are very similar that way. So no, kudos to him. He did a great job, and I definitely felt like I was hanging out with all of my mom's friends, because growing up, I spent more time with people that spoke broken English than people that spoke real English.
Yeah, I agree. I did too. So it was a fun thing to watch him transform into Nono, because Anthony is actually considerably younger than the character. We had to age him up in hair and makeup, and then of course listening to him talk like Nono, where he sounds literally like a completely different person, was pretty fun. It was really interesting, and I enjoyed watching him. So
yeah, very, very cool guy. And I've told you this, and I don't want to give away too much of the movie because people definitely need to see this movie. But when he says cibo di cane, which means the food of the dog food, my whole family just cracked up.
Awesome. Including your 7-year-old, correct?
7-year-old who takes Italian lessons every Thursday night, begrudgingly, but
listen,
he knew what cibo di cane meant because of it.
If you're growing up with a name like Dante, you need to know how to speak Italian.
Exactly. All right. So look how easy that was. Look, you got to make these cakes. You got to pay attention. But we're done basically. Now we're going to make the chocolate. So I just have regular Nestle chocolate chips here. Here's another little tip though. I do add, and I'm going to grab it. I do add a little bit of shortening to my chocolate chips because, and again, this is for ease of use. Instead of throwing this in a double boiler, blah, 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 all I do is take the shortening, put it on top. Don't worry, I'll get it so that you can see.
I think I know where this is headed.
This is headed to the microwave.
That's right. I had a feeling that's what was going to happen.
Exactly. So that's not really interesting. I'm not going to bother you with that, but I am going to throw it in the microwave.
Oh, that's a handy microwave.
You're popping it in on intervals. You don't want to have, you don't want to blast it for 3 minutes. Put it in 15, 20 seconds at a time. Give it a little mix, and you will see how the shortening and the chocolate completely come together. And what the shortening does is it just gives you a nice pourability. That's a fancy word for it doesn't just stick on the top. It's going to go down. We're going to have a beautiful pour shot, and then you're going to get it all on there. The other thing it does is, a baker will always temper chocolate. I'm not about to temper chocolate. And this kind of gives you a phony shiny temper look, even though you're not tempering it.
So explain tempering so that people who are new to that concept will understand.
All right, and as I do that, I'm going to mix this as well because this has got to go in for a little bit longer. So what happens is when a baker tempers chocolate, so when anytime you buy like a chocolate cake or anytime you get, if you love Jacques Torres, they don't just melt chocolate, they temper it. And what that means is they're taking that chocolate, they're heating it up, and then they're cooling it, usually on a very cold piece of marble, in order to get the chocolate to a certain temperature. And what that does is it prevents the chocolate from cracking, it allows it to be very pourable, and it also creates a sheen. And that's why when you ever buy something with chocolate from a bakery, it's going to be a lot more shiny than, when you're just melting chocolate at home, either on the stove or in the microwave.
How many times are you going to do the chocolate in the microwave before it's ready?
I would say, honestly, it kind of depends on the bowl you use and the amount of shortening that you throw in there. I just do 20 seconds clips. Probably at the end of it, it ends up being a couple minutes.
Right.
I also use about 6 ounces of chocolate because, and you'll see it's going to get a little messy, but I actually like to do the sides too because I like those corner pieces that have chocolate everywhere. Another thing, when you get them at the bakery.
So why don't we take a second, mix that, put it back in the microwave, and then flip your camera up so we could talk to you before we get to the pouring part.
All right, I think the chocolate's done.
Oh, if it's done, then we're good.
Yeah. See that? See how it's coming together?
So that was only twice in the microwave. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I'm a pro, so I did 40 seconds and then I did 20 seconds.
Oh, so you were just pushing it to the edge. You were getting.
Well, I wanted people to be careful, and that's why I say 20 seconds. But after you've been doing this, I've been making rainbow cookies for 20 years now.
Hey, I've been making them a longer time.
Exactly. So look at that. See how beautiful that is?
Yeah, that looks great. That shortening trick is a really nice kind of tip, because then that chocolate is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. So this is going to go down. All right, here we go.
Oh, look at this. Oh, the money shot. That looks like a shot I took for your book.
Exactly. The Polish cake.
That's right. That was amazing.
All right.
This big square cake that we made.
All right, so now I have.
You got your offset spatula.
Got my offset spatula here. Now I'm going to push this to the edge. And what's going to happen is it's going to start falling down the sides. Now, when you go to the bakery, sometimes they will have, well, not sometimes, most of the time, there's a chocolate layer on the top and a chocolate layer on the bottom. I still haven't figured out how to do that at home. So that's why my rainbow cookies do not have the chocolate layer on the bottom, but they're homemade. And I will tell you, because they're homemade and they're super duper duper fresh, I think they're better than the bakery.
Listen, I'm always all for the homemade over the store-bought or even the bakery bought, because I think that when you make something at home, there's that extra element of you're always including ingredients that you like, right? So the chocolate on these might be different at different bakeries, and I know that if I was doing that at home, I would choose the chocolate I really like. So
exactly, you could do this with dark chocolate. I always throw in a little bit of extra almond extract because I'm all about that almond flavor.
Yeah.
Almond extract is expensive, so I don't know if the bakeries put too much of that. All right.
True.
You see, I'm going down the sides of these cookies. Oh, I wish you could smell this. It smells so good.
I can almost smell it from here.
Actually, very paper thin. Because remember, this is going to go in the fridge and cool. And if it's too thick, it'll crack on you when you're trying to cut it.
Got it.
Even though sometimes you think more is good, in this situation, as in most in life, less is more.
Nice.
So see,
I love the drips I'm looking at from the front side of the camera, where it's facing the audience. We could see these drips coming down. It makes me want to take my finger and just.
Oh, good. I'm glad you can see that on your side. So see how I'm just going to go around.
Yeah. You still need some chocolate on this front side.
Be patient.
Okay. Oh, wait, where's your feed?
What's that?
We lost you. I can't see you now.
Uh-oh. Where'd I go? Am I back?
You're back.
That was weird and scary.
Oh, live television. Isn't it fun?
All right. So now what I'm going to do, since you really want to see it done,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going
you got to rotate. Yeah, you got to rotate. There you go. Oh, yeah, there it is. Perfect.
See, yeah. So, and like you saw, the chocolate does the work for you. As long as you keep moving it along the front.
It just finds its way. Yeah.
Now, look, I wouldn't say that this recipe is for someone that's, never boiled water before. But
I think the trickiest part of this, at least from my experience when I'm baking, is getting the cakes to the right consistency, and getting them the right thickness and the right consistency would be. And I think your method of measuring out the batter is the perfect solution to that. I learned that a lot from working with Yotam Ottolenghi's recipes, because they do everything very precise, and there's a lot of baking involved in working on that column. And I think I've become a better baker because of it, because now I measure everything by grams, and I do not take any chances when it comes to measurements. And I think it makes us, more scientific as cooks and bakers when we do that.
So see, I'm adding a little more chocolate on this side because I'll just show you really quick. So this side didn't get the drip. So now I'm going to let it drip over here. And I'm just going, and guys, I will let you know, I went to culinary school, but as a savory chef, I did not go to pastry school. So I'm there, right there with you. And that was the thing, is I had these batters and I was just kind of haphazardly, making three, dyeing them. And then my red was too big and my green was too small. So I said, okay, I weighed the whole amount. It was about 30 ounces. So then I just reweighed 10 ounces of red, 10 ounces of green, 10 ounces of white. And that's how we made it work.
And behold.
What's that?
Lo and behold, perfection.
Exactly. So now, this is the last bakery trick. So what they do on the top, first, they get it all smooth on the top. Okay. And again, this is where that shortening also helps in. Now I'm going to grab a butter knife. Now watch this. And anyone can do this. I'm going to make lines running across the top.
Yeah, they look to be about an inch apart, right?
Yeah. Now, across.
And now you got your cut lines.
It creates a nice little decoration. And then later, when I'm cutting it, it gives me a guide for cutting.
Perfect.
And
those look amazing.
Guys.
That looks great.
Now, this is going to go in the refrigerator. And again, because of that shortening, it's going to firm up nice and fast. After 15 minutes, it's going to be nice and hardened. And you're going to be able to cut them through the magic of television. Da, 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 da.
So why don't we put that in the fridge, and then we could cut them in 15 minutes before we finish up today.
All right. You guys
you can put your camera back up in a minute.
Yeah,
so honestly, I think that was a lot easier than I expected it to feel. It looks very complicated, and when you eat these, they're so delicate. You realize that it does take some skill, but it's not so much that you can't try this at home. I think that it's definitely, especially the chocolate trick. The chocolate trick, I think, is the key for me, because getting that chocolate the right consistency. I just had a conversation with a photographer who was trying to recreate the cover of my book, which is chocolate pouring off. And he kept texting me going, how did you get it to that consistency? How did you get it to that consistency? And quite honestly, I did something similar, right? Where I had an additive to the chocolate to get it to that like looser, more manageable kind of consistency. So I think that showing people how simple that was in the microwave is genius, because that's the thing that freaks people out about a recipe like this, is that chocolate, you have to get the chocolate perfect or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, and like, not to toot my own horn here, guys, but I mean, look at this.
That's beautiful. Look at that. The chocolate is so like razor thin too. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bite, you know, because the experience of the rainbow cookie, you know, is that very moist cake. So the chocolate's just kind of like the gilded lily, right? It's not really a chocolate cookie. And you don't want a really thick layer, because again, if it gets too thick, it'll pop right off when you're cutting. And then, or even when you're biting down, it'll pop up on you. You want to be able to take that bite and have everything stay, and it's that perfect sandwich. And these cookies, I did use, you know, my tomato can trick.
Right. So you got it a little bit tighter, right?
Yeah. So I mean, look at that nice, beautiful sandwich. And these will disappear in my house tonight.
So what Nono says in the film. So in the film, Nono and Marco are sort of getting to know each other a little bit better in a bakery, and Nono's telling Marco some stories about coming to the U.S. and that when he had a rainbow cookie, he took one bite and knew that everything was going to be okay, right? And I think because he was scared, it was a new place and everything else. But I think that the connection to memory, right, with food, it's a big theme for me when I'm doing my work. I know it's something that is important to you, and you've already kind of shared a really personal story about how these cookies are a memory trigger for you. I think that's such an important aspect of why food plays such a large role in storytelling, is that it taps into these common experiences that we have and things that are become like so important in our lives. And I think you shared that with us, and maybe you can go back to it here, because, or at least recap us for some of the people who missed maybe the beginning.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying before, these cookies just hold an important memory for me, because when I was dating my husband, we both lived in Lower Manhattan, and there's a lot of really lovely Italian bakeries still in New York City. Whether it's Little Italy or, you know, Sullivan Street, there's just little areas where you can still find these pockets of immigrant people baking their foods. And we would go there, and my husband loved the rainbow cookies. So it became kind of like this quest of mine to create the perfect rainbow cookie. And the moment in the movie when Nono says that, it was so authentic, because actually when I was cooking with a woman from my book, from the Ukraine, right? She said when she got off the plane in Queens from the Ukraine, she had two little boys. The first thing that she did was, after she dropped her bags, was she went to the grocery store, because she was so scared that they wouldn't have the rest of the ingredients for her borscht, because winter was coming and she needed to make borscht for her boys. And was that grocery store going to have those ingredients? And this is a doctor, she's a physician. It wasn't like the fact that she had to get her license again, the fact that she had to pretty much redo medical school. It was, I have to make borscht. And is this new crazy scary place going to have it? And she said when she got to the store and she saw that she could cobble together her borscht in an American grocery store, she knew everything was going to be okay.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's amazing. I cook my great grandmother's Sunday sauce, right? So anybody who knows me, I used to write a blog called Making Sunday Sauce, which was it's the name of my company. It's become like the through line of all of my work is this pot of tomato sauce. And the reality of having that smell in my house on Sunday mornings when I'm cooking that sauce, I worked at it for years to get that smell perfect resemblance of my grandmother's kitchen. And I realized there was a particular ingredient that needed to be in there to make it smell like that. And it was that the sauce is pork heavy. It has to be pork heavy to make it smell like that.
Yeah.
And once I've kind of perfected it, it's almost like a meditation for me, right? It's like when I make the sauce and everybody around me that knows that when I'm making it. And there's a picture on my Instagram from, I guess about 3 years ago. I was visiting a friend, and they asked me to make the sauce, right? And I ended up making it in a pot that was like a 5-gallon pot. So I decided, sure, I'll make a 5-gallon pot of this sauce. And I basically put 20 pounds of meat in it, and like 10 cans of sauce, and like 2 whole cloves of garlic. It was just amazing. And there's this picture of me stirring it with this giant, like baseball bat looking wooden spoon. And I love that picture because it really reminds me that that connection is real, right? Is that, it really is.
I mean, the one thing I say in the introduction of my book, and I say it all the time, well, I say 2 things. One, it's how I sign every one of my cookbooks. When someone asks me for a signature, I always write food is love, because it absolutely is. But the other thing I always say is that food transports us. And it's something that people don't realize. But for example, in the movie, when Marco eats that cookie with that rainbow cookie with his grandfather, for the rest of Marco's life, if Marco were a real person, when he's 40, when he's 50, when he's 70, anytime he takes a bite of a rainbow cookie, he's not going to be thinking about the almond paste or the chocolate or whatever. He's going to be thinking about his grandfather. And he's going to be transported to that first moment in the bakery shop when his grandfather sat there with him and talked to him about rainbow cookies. And I truly believe, and I've said this, and it was kind of the thesis of my book, and it's, not a proven theory, but I believe that the reason immigrants came here and continued to make the cookies, and the Greeks opened up the diners, and the Italians opened up the restaurants and the bakeries, and the Chinese people started making, their food in a wok here. The reason people didn't start just, opening up cans of the processed food that they could find here is because they needed a tether. They needed to transport. They needed to feel safe. And when they were in an American kitchen, their United States kitchen, and they didn't speak the language, or they had a heavy accent, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing, they knew they could create Little Italy, Little Germany, Little China, Little whatever, in their kitchen with those smells, with those tastes. And I think that's why the United States is such an amazing place, because as you know, in New York City, you can walk down the street, you have Thai today, Chinese tomorrow, Italian, German, whatever you want to eat, because these people brought their foods here with them. They didn't leave them behind.
Well, I mean, I live in an interracial household, right? So like my wife is Korean, and I learned a lot about Korean food, which is something I did not know about growing up. And her mom, like I watched her mom cook, and I learned how to cook some of the recipes. And her mom stayed insulated in that world, and a lot of that had to do with the food, right? And that she loved Italian food. She loved all these different foods. But when it came to her feeling that tether to her culture, to her world, and I think this is one of the reasons why, as we share recipes and we delve into other people's cultures and understand their foods, I think it's important for us to recognize the importance that all of us have that tether to, and honor that, right? So I feel like you did that very well, and in your book, and it was one of the reasons why I fell in love with the project and I wanted to work on it with you, is that there is this reverence that you pay to culture, not just your own. And I think that that's a really important factor in celebrating food and celebrating culture and the connection. And it's usually that first door that opens for us when we meet people of different cultures, is their food.
Absolutely, 100%. I think tolerance starts in so many situations with food, because all intolerance really is fear, right? I don't know you, I don't know what you're about, I'm scared, and there must be something bad, right?
Sure.
And tolerance comes from familiarity. I mean, there's this great quote, you can't hate anybody up close. And once you sink your teeth into someone's food and you get up close, you can't dislike them anymore. You can't be fearful anymore.
I think that's really important aspect of it. I mean, I think the thing that made Anthony Bourdain's show so non-reproducible was the fact that he took this sort of poetic angle on everybody's culture, right? It really wasn't about food. The show wasn't about food. The show was about culture. It was about acceptance and understanding, and yes, it begins with the idea of getting past the fear and getting through the idea that I need to tolerate other people to the point where I get to learn to accept other people, embrace them, and then celebrate them, right? And I think that progression, a lot of times the first door that opens is our food.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I love the fact that in the movie, the rainbow cookies did play such a big part because, again, it was just tying everything back. And also, the fact that they did sit down to family dinner. That's one thing that's incredibly important in my home. And I definitely learned that from my parents was, I don't care when you have soccer practice. I don't care with the kids today. I don't care when you want to be on your iPad. Dinner time is family time. It's sacred. It's when the kids actually talk to you and make eye contact. And I loved the fact that you saw that in the movie. It was like, no, iPad away, whatever iBridge, whatever Marco was playing at the time, put that stuff away. It's family time. And family time isn't always great, right? Sometimes you're fighting, sometimes you're yelling, but that's part of it. That's working stuff out. And if everybody just goes to their corner and you're eating your mac and cheese in front of the TV and someone else is having a sandwich on over the sink, that's not right.
Sandwich over the sink. I mean, I can relate to that. I absolutely can relate to that.
That happens. That happens in so many homes. So it's very important for me. And I have 3 kids and they're running in 3 different directions and we change dinner time every night, but it's incredibly important for all 5 of us to be at the table. And I learned that in my Italian home, 100%.
Yeah, I do. I think that the reconnection of understanding that technology is here to stay and it's not going away, but how to incorporate that and then still find time for interpersonal connection. I think part of the time we've spent during the pandemic has probably taught us a little bit of that too, as people reintroduce themselves to the kitchen. I mean, the impetus for Work from Home Cafe was the fact that I didn't have the option to run out to lunch every day, and I wasn't out in the streets doing my thing. I was home cooking lunch, breakfast, and dinner for my wife because she was home working. And I think that it really did reconnect me to certain aspects of what cooking means to me. Now, like, of course, cooking is a big part of my life as a food photographer, but I think I enjoy cooking more so now than I have in a long time because of the fact that it grounds me, right? It's the tether. So I did a photo shoot yesterday for some Italian restaurants in Little Italy, including some rainbow cookies, in conjunction with the movie. And I went home with a lot of ingredients, and I had this big thing of fresh ricotta cheese that it's from one of the dairies down in Little Italy. And I woke up this morning and I'm like, what can I make with this? And then I realized, okay, I got a loaf pan here. I got all of this delicious ricotta. I'm gonna make a ricotta pound cake. And I got the recipe, and then later on today I'm gonna make it, and I'm excited about it. Like, I made some homemade jam the other day. I'm gonna put the jam on top of it. I can't wait to eat it. And honestly, it wasn't something I was thinking about a year ago.
No. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, look, my life is food. So it's different for me. My husband had to get used to being in my family because at breakfast, somebody always says, what are we having for lunch? And then at lunch, somebody else will say, what are we having for dinner? And my husband would be like, can I finish eating the meal that I have? And it's like, we got a plan, dude. It's all we think about.
All we think about. It's true. So I think it's been almost 15 minutes.
All right, let me
check. Did you have a timer on or no? All right, she's checking. So what we got is we made the rainbow cookies earlier. They're chilling in the fridge so that they're cuttable, sliceable. We're going to bring them back and cut them up, and we're going to show you the final product as soon as Anna tells us they're ready. What do you think?
All right, I'm going to get myself a sharp knife.
Sharp knife. Here it comes. So do you feel like they're ready?
They are ready.
They are ready.
Bring
All
you
right,
down.
we'll come back down. We'll come back up to you before we finish up. Oh, we got to see this because this is the best part.
Now, I have my guides, right, that I made.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this a while. Like you said, you can definitely use a ruler. Now, the way I made them here is the way they had them in the movie and the way you find them in the bakeries. It's long and it's thin.
Right.
I will be honest with you. In my house, I actually cut them into little squares so that they last longer. The smaller I make them, you know, they seem to last a little bit longer that way. But let's do them the traditional way. So I'm just going to start at one end.
You do that. I'm going to step away for 1 second because I got to get something. While you're doing that, I'm back. Okay.
All right. As you can see, I'm just using those guidelines and I'm just cutting away here.
That's amazing because it's going through so clean.
Yeah, and I am wiping my knife too because I will be honest, it probably could have sat a little bit longer, but we're good.
Okay. It looks amazing because I can tell that that chocolate is set.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Looks good.
All right, I'm going to stop now and I'm just going to start going this way just so that you can see.
Yeah. Well, you got time. It's no hurry. We're enjoying this. It's very meditative watching you cut them.
And another thing you can do, I've seen this at other bakeries too. If you want, again, gilding the lily, you can use little sprinkles. But again, you're going to put those on when it's still
right.
When it's still wet. All right. Now, I'm going to cut along the edge because remember, we let.
Oh, right, because you let the chocolate go all the way to the edge, so you have to release them from the board.
Yep. Now, these are my favorite.
Ah, yeah, the corner. That's the best part.
So this is called the cook's treat. The chocolate corner, those are for Mama. Nobody sees those. Now,
so
here
you basically you scored the tops, but you cut them like traditional sized.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. There is your rainbow cookie.
That looks amazing.
As you can see, you got your 3 layers.
Oh, hold it a little lower. Lower. Yeah. A little direction on the fly. Okay, yeah, you got your 3 layers. You got your chocolate. And then once you get to the middle, they're going to look more like the regular one with the chocolate on the top. Yeah.
Yep. There's chocolate on the top. Nice cookie on the bottom.
Go down a little bit.
It's a solid cookie.
Come down a little bit. There we go.
Perfect.
There we are. Okay. Excellent.
All right.
All right. So you got to taste one. Flip your camera up so we could see you. And then I have a surprise because I have one too.
Chin chin.
Cheers. Chin chin. Perfect.
So good.
I mean, you didn't make these, but they look like the ones you made. These actually come from one of those bakeries you were talking about. These come from Ferrara's in Little Italy.
See, I think I did a good job.
I think you did a great job. They look so moist.
They're super, super moist, and that's from the almond paste, and that's from the fact that there's 3 eggs in here, but only 1 cup of flour. So, wow. I want to take like 7 more bites.
The thing that's the most surprising about a cookie like this, right, is how complex the flavor is. Because you taste the almond, you taste the apricot, you taste the chocolate, and they all complement each other in a very, very special way. You know, like it's not one overpowering flavor.
No, and what you're really doing is you're serving somebody a mini cake.
Yeah.
It's in a cookie, if you think about it. I baked 3 cakes. I sandwiched them with frosting in the middle, which was our jam, and then, you know, the chocolate on top. So this should really be called rainbow cake, but we'll let that go.
Well, I would eat it that. You know, there are some bakeries that actually serve it that way.
Yes, baked. It's now I think they have 3 or 4 locations, but baked. They have a cookbook. I mean, amazing. They make a rainbow cake.
So, I mean, I think we've definitely done the reference in the film pretty a good amount of justice today. I think that it's the cookies were such a special aspect of the film on the other side of the camera, and I'll explain. So we had a lot of our crew were younger people, and a good portion of them came from California. They were not Italian. Most of them did not have the cultural sort of touchstone that the cookies and the food that they experienced while filming the movie on Staten Island. And a few of them completely fell in love with the culture, right? They fell in love with and the cookies became the thing that they wanted to seek out when they got home. So our cinematographer, this young guy named Powell Robinson, he was so enamored with rainbow cookies that he had to have them. So he went all over LA trying to find an Italian bakery that made Italian rainbow cookies the way he had experienced them in New York. And I think he's probably gone to 4 or 5 different bakeries all around LA trying to find really good ones. And I think he's found one place that he likes, but he's become this aficionado. And it's just like a source of pride for Giulio and for the crew to know that we shared our culture, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera too, with all of these people who got to experience our culture in a way that they may never have experienced otherwise. And it's something that they will carry with them. So what you said about rainbow cookies, we lost your visual.
Yeah.
There you are. What we said about rainbow cookies in the film, so like if Marco was a real person, he would never have a rainbow cookie without thinking about his grandfather. Well, we kind of provided that too for some of our people, right? So Powell Robinson will never eat a rainbow cookie again in his life without thinking about making Team Marco.
100%.
So that it kind of ties it all together like that. So, Anna, I think you've done an extraordinary job in helping me talk about rainbow cookies, show people how special they are to not just people from our culture, but in general. What was that sound?
Yeah, that was just a chair. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you threw a towel at the chair, so I'm assuming there was a human on that chair.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yeah, so I really appreciate you coming on today, joining us on Work From Home Cafe and CreativeLIVE, and sharing with the audience your experience with Team Marco, which I know that you had a nice experience watching it with your children, and also how it connected for you. So, oh, we lost your visual. Where'd you go? There you are.
I have a little bit of Wi-Fi issue because I think I'm back now. Sorry about that.
No, you're back. You're back. But I wanted to just continue and say thank you for your help today and your passion for rainbow cookies and Team Marco and joining us on CreativeLIVE. It was special. If you are watching us now, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up today and show you the trailer for Team Marco. So we're gonna close the show today, thanking Anna, thanking you for being here, thanking CreativeLIVE for having us, and we're gonna run out today with the trailer for Team Marco. So thanks so much today. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much. This is a pleasure.
And we will see you next time on Work From Home Cafe. So thanks so much.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy the trailer.
You're raising a robot.
He's not a robot.
We are arriving at our destination.
You know, your son never leaves the house. Every minute glued to that machine.
It's a tablet.
Well, he spends more time with his tablet than Moses.
Hey!
You're not gonna waste your summer like this. Get on.
I'm not getting on this thing.
Change!
Women
love a good bocce toss.
You ever throw a bocce ball, kid?
He only throws a hissy fit if you take away his robots. It's a joke. Laugh a little.
What do you want?
You love a good deal, no? I give you all this junk back if your team beats my team in bocce.
Wow.
Young people now have too much happening in front of them. It's not about thinking. Bocce's like life. You have to feel it. Who are these kids?
This is my bocce team.
Let's bury them.